off. So welcome everyone to our first State of the Organization presentation that we'll be giving tonight. Maria had this excellent idea as we get ready to have a long range planning retreat in June. As we're approaching 3 years of our organization, we were discussing whether folks are aware of everything that we're doing as an organization, and how across our different working groups, we're doing a lot of different projects that some folks in other working groups might not be totally aware of. So we're hoping to cover a few different things today. I'm going to start the presentation off. All of you know me, Emily Thompson, Director of Operations. And then when we get to the Chicks and Children's Health Initiative, I'm going to hand things over to Maria Finnegan, who's our Director of Chicks, and she'll be handling that aspect of the presentation. I'm then going to end us off talking about a few overall operational things, and then that will be it for tonight. So we'll see how much we can fit in to the hour. So today we're mainly going to focus on working group overviews, what the ongoing projects each working group is currently working on are, day-to-day operations, as I just mentioned, and then a lot of opportunities for involvement throughout. At places like our annual meeting, I touch a lot upon our previous impacts and accomplishments that we've had. And I'll mention a little bit of that today, but today's more going to focus on what's currently going on and what we have to look forward to. So that is the goal of today, and I'm going to get us started by talking about our Communications and Education Working Group. Wonderful. So our Communications and Education Working Group has been meeting since very soon on since the organization started, which is now about 3 years ago. It started as the Communications Working Group in Education, and then they kind of naturally combined. And Deborah Gerson and Bob Dewey are our co-chairs of that working group, and it meets each month on the third Wednesday of the month. So the biggest projects that have been ongoing in this working group are the Speakers Bureau, the New Hampshire Chat, the LTE Writing Subcommittee, and the webinar series. So I'm going to deep dive into each of these things. If I miss anything or if anyone has any questions, please feel free to put stuff in the chat, and then hopefully we'll have time after to touch on things I might have missed, answer any questions, everything like that. For now, I'm going to try to go a little bit quickly through, but hopefully cover everything. So our Speakers Bureau has been one of our longest running programs that we've had and has gained a ton of attention, media coverage, and had a really great educational effect across the state. And it's been going for, I think, about 2 years now. So far, there's been 115 climate and health presentations given to over 2,000 people across the state in a variety of audiences. So whether that's Rotary and Kiwanis clubs, libraries, school settings, whether that be medical students, high school students, college students, and then to medical conferences. So there is a Google folder that we have that hosts this huge deck of slides. Our regular generic Climate and Health 101 talk that Bob and Deb put together, and then there have been slides added on by everyone involved in the Speakers Bureau that focus on different topics: climate justice, mental health, children's health. Nurses in our group put together slides that are specifically geared towards the NCLEX standards. So it's been a great way to get into nursing student classrooms and keep presenting to more audiences there. So what are we looking to get done with this group now and going forward? As we gear up with this election year that's going on, we're hoping to get this climate and health talk into as many different audiences as possible. As we are a 501c3 status, as we get closer to the election, we can't do any work supporting candidates or lobbying work in that regard. However, we're hoping to do some get out the vote messaging and encourage folks to vote with climate in mind. So we're hoping to identify more venues. So to do this, we have a pre-drafted outreach letter that explains what the Speakers Bureau presentation is and how to set one up. We have a poster that we can put into various like websites or mailings or anything like that to be sent out to schedule presentations. And as I said, we're hoping to gear up this fall and the rest of the summer. So if anyone has any ideas of where could be a good venue for a Speakers Bureau, please definitely feel free to reach out and provide me with a contact, or I can provide you with this outreach letter and we can get some venues established that we haven't already hit. Or if you want to get involved a little bit further in the Speakers Bureau, you can become a speaker. So we have a pre-recorded training video where Deb and Bob run through all of the slides that they've created and how they like to present it. You can get familiar with the slide deck, and then you can learn a little bit about how they present it and what their experiences have been. So those are our options with the Speakers Bureau. Next, I'll touch on the New Hampshire Climate Health Action Talk, or the NH Chat, which is our bi-monthly newsletter. So this is by far our most opened and successful method of communication. We use MailChimp to send out our email blasts. So I usually try to send maximum 2 a month out to our entire mailing list, which now is about 3,138 folks on it, mostly healthcare workers, but others as well, and then mostly in New Hampshire, but also in adjacent states or across the country. And all of our mailings have over a 40% open rate, which is great. However, our newsletter specifically has a 54% average open rate, which is just absolutely phenomenal. So it's been a great success. So we put together this bi-monthly newsletter featuring kind of the same aspects each time, but different things to feature. And then all of those are subsequently posted on our website. So you can look back at all of our previous newsletters at the NH Chat section of our website. So what we're looking to get done with the NH Chat is to keep it running bi-monthly and always accepting submissions. So I'm looking to launch a new member highlight where I can highlight one member of New Hampshire Healthcare Workers for Climate Action, either doing great climate and health work within our organization or outside of it in the state. But then we're also looking for submissions, whether it be an article on climate and health, whether it be a picture you've taken in your backyard that we can link to a climate and health story or anything like that. Or if there's ideas that you have that we haven't touched upon, it's great outreach and it's a great place to highlight events, topics that can get into the computer screens of over 1,500 people are actually opening it, which is great. So that is one aspect where you can contribute to that. But if you don't have anything to contribute to the actual context of the newsletters, just encouraging folks to sign up to our mailing list is hugely important. So as we have such a high mailing list, which we're super grateful and have worked really hard to raise over the past 3 years, with that many people, we probably get 5 unsubscribes for each email I send out, which I think is normal and can be expected. However, I want to make sure that we're replenishing those numbers, so we're never just sitting idle or depleting our mailing list, but always bringing fresh people in. So if you ever are speaking to someone about our organization and folks might not have the time or interest or energy to join as a volunteer, just signing up folks for 2 emails a month from us can be hugely impactful to grow our awareness on our organization. And then maybe folks glance through it and find an event that they want to attend. And then that will be that next level of engagement that can keep it going. So there's a spot on our website called the Join Us page where folks can fill out a form, and that immediately signs them up to our MailChimp email service. And then I get an email as well with their information. And I'll just send them an email thanking them, letting them know if they want to get involved further, they can contact me. But that's a great outreach tool if you want to get other people involved, which would be hugely helpful. Within our comms efforts, we also have a letters to the editor writing subcommittee. So thus far, over 75 letters to the editor and op-eds on different climate and health topics have been submitted from members of our group to various media outlets around the entire state. So if you're interested in using your writing skills, if you have something to say, we always emphasize using that trusted messenger status of healthcare workers is hugely important. So we have a pre-recorded training for LTE writing as well, where you can learn what goes into an LTE, what do you focus on, how do you write it, and then how do you get it published. So we have example LTEs to go with that and can kind of provide you some more information on how that works. And then if you are doing something, say for the election, and again, just any candidates or any kind of lobbying work like that, you can still write that, just don't reference New Hampshire Healthcare Workers for Climate Action. Or if you want to write something a little bit more about our organization or reference us directly, we ask that you just send it to me and I'll review it with the executive committee if needed to make sure it fits all of our 501c3 standards and everything like that. And otherwise that would be fine. Or if you want to get something out quickly, any climate and health information we can get out there in front of the eyes of folks is much appreciated. So you don't even have to mention us at all. You can just get your thoughts out there and then just let me know, because I keep track of how many climate and health LTEs and op-eds have been submitted and are hopefully going to be continued to submit. over the next few months. And then lastly on our comms front is our educational webinar series. So we've had over 52 webinars in total thus far, but 52 are housed on our website. So we have a huge deck of different climate and health topics with really big name national speakers, as well as really, really knowledgeable local experts on different climate and health topics, some really relevant to New Hampshire, some national, and they can all be found on our website. So these are all on YouTube, and some have had like a few thousand views at this point, which is great. And I want to make sure that these aren't just a one-off event, and that if, say, you have someone asks you a question about a specific like surgical waste reduction question, or something about ALS and climate change, we have a lot of videos where you can find a lot of great information on those topics. We've been able to offer CME and CEU credits through Southern New Hampshire AHEC, which has been great, and we have the opportunity to continue doing that in the future, depending on the webinar topic. So going forward, we need just to identify more speakers and more topics. So if there's a topic we haven't covered yet, or a speaker that anyone is aware of, please feel free to reach out to me and I can help facilitate that. And then once that webinar is set up with the speaker, collaborating with affiliate groups to get it really known statewide is important. We can work to get CMECU credits if it's really healthcare related, and make some great events. So that's something we hope to get forward. As we started as an organization, we were doing 3 webinars a month, which was great. However, a huge time commitment. So we've scaled back to 1 webinar per month. So that is our current goal, and we're going pretty strong with that. I'll mention some of our upcoming webinars throughout the presentation. So now I'm going to transfer into our policy and advocacy working group and work that we're doing in that space, both at the state level and federal level. So the co-chairs of this working group are myself and Joan Widmer. This group meets on the last Tuesday of each month from 6 to 7 p.m. And currently, and over the past year, the main focus of this group was a piece of legislation that we put together and proposed by having Senator Shannon Chanley sponsor it. This was SB 496, which was directing the Department of Health and Human Services to establish a climate and health protection program. So there used to be an Office of Climate Change and Health at New Hampshire DHHS that was funded by the CDC. And then once that funding was no longer available, the office was no longer intact. So that's what we were hoping to address. And it did pass the Senate, which we were hugely excited about, and unfortunately did not pass the House. However, it honestly got farther than we thought it would this year. And it was a great learning opportunity for us to hopefully work this summer on potentially making amendments, working with Senator Shannon Chanley on her recommendations, and maybe reintroducing it in August. So there will be more work done in that front. And then the group is also simultaneously working on planning a webinar series for this fall with the New Hampshire gubernatorial candidates. So this will be a 1-hour webinar for each candidate, where we'll ask them questions about climate and health and energy. And it will be an opportunity for them to connect with healthcare workers as well as affiliate groups we can get involved, and allow them a 1-hour slot to talk. So it won't be a debate or anything like that. And we're going to invite every candidate after the primary, which will be allowed with our 501c3 status. So more to come on that. And then I wanted to talk a little bit about the national level advocacy that we're engaged with. So as many of you may know, some may not, we are the New Hampshire state affiliate of a national organization called the Medical Society Consortium on Climate and Health. So there's actually 25 state affiliates with the consortium. So there's 24 other groups exactly like ours in states across the country doing this work. And then once a year, the consortium hosts an annual meeting at George Mason University in Arlington, Virginia, where the consortium is founded within. And they do an annual meeting with all of the state groups, and then a Capitol Hill Day. So over the past 2 years, our organization has participated in this, and we're able to go to the Capitol and discuss with New Hampshire elected officials as well as some others. This year, it was stronger emission standards on vehicles. Last year was stronger soot pollution standards, all in collaboration with the American Lung Association and Lung Health. So this is open to anyone within our organization. So if you have any interest in kind of either one, getting informed about some of these federal initiatives and opportunities that are going on, I suggest signing up for the Medical Society Consortium's newsletter at their website. And again, I'll send these slides later, so all of these links will be available to you. And then you can just kind of stay abreast of that information as it comes out. And then joining that conference is a great way to meet with these other states and kind of do this federal advocacy. So I have that conference information here if anyone's interested in that. And then I wanted to let you know as well, we have a state network that meets over the course of the year with the 25 state affiliates, where we discuss our obstacles, our challenges, our successes, ongoing programs, opportunities for collaboration, and everything like that. So it's honestly a really kind of rewarding and motivating experience to be able to talk to these other state groups. I think sometimes, as we all know, climate work can be a little lonely, and especially in a state like New Hampshire, you can feel like you might be one of the only ones doing especially climate and health work or just climate work, and it can be a little bit feel like we're on our own. However, it's really motivating to see all the other states doing this work. And then at our last meeting last week, we heard from Florida who discussed their situation politically, and you can empathize with others who are going through even worse than we are, if you can believe that. So information on their national group is always available if you want to get more involved with that. Another policy working group related activity is our New Hampshire Climate and Health surveys that we put together with collaboration from the Climate Justice Group over the past year. So this was a survey geared towards healthcare workers, asking them questions on their experiences and knowledge on climate and health in the state. So this was active from February to April of this year, and we received 355 submissions for it. So now we're working with the UNH Survey Center on a survey report that's been drafted, and we're actually meeting with them tomorrow to work on finalizing that report. So stay tuned for when that comes out. We think it'll be a good opportunity to say, this many healthcare workers in the state have experienced this. This is what beliefs are and perceptions are on climate and health affecting families in New Hampshire, and then actually have data to back that up, which will be helpful for both education and advocacy efforts. And then moving on, as I just mentioned them, our Climate Justice Working Group. So this group is co-chaired by Summer Aitor and Suzanne Gallagher and meets on the second Tuesday of each month. And this year, the main focus of this working group has been on the New Hampshire Environmental Justice Roundtable. So some of the leaders of this group were leading organizing efforts for this roundtable. And these are monthly discussions to raise the visibility of EJ in New Hampshire. So I outlined some of the goals of that roundtable program here, working to understand environmental justice issues, how to address them, increasing readiness of groups that are working to participate in funding, celebrating local successes, building toward a statewide environmental justice movement, and offering opportunities for philanthropy. So a lot of discussion in this working group has been increasing coalition. I actually just got off a meeting of the New Hampshire Networks Environment Working Group, which is focusing on environmental justice issues. So we suggested combining efforts there and just getting the folks that are doing this work into one room. So we're not ever reinventing any wheels or doing work just for ourselves without consulting communities who are engaged in environmental justice work every day, and getting the right voices heard and in the room. So the environmental justice roundtables will be continuing throughout the summer. There's going to be one in May, June, and July. I have more information on what will be discussed at each meeting, who the key players there will be, and everything like that. And then these are the registration links for each of those meetings. If you have any interest at any point, I will make sure you have these links and can register to join. And then the other working group that I'm going to discuss is the Behavioral Health Working Group, which is chaired by Bob Fetter. And this group meets on the third Monday of each month. And currently the group is working on hoping to explore connections with the CHICS Working Group on a behavioral health and climate anxiety curriculum as part of that program, which Maria will touch on more in her aspect of the presentation. A member of the working group, Reb McKenzie, has put together an entire project proposal on transformational resilience that is now being finalized and seeking funding for. And then here in this photo, you'll see Bob Fetter presenting actually at this year's Medical Society Consortium annual meeting. And he's touching on the community mental health wellness and Resilience Act. So there's that clear connection to policy as well. And actually, another fun thing to add here is I just met with a graduate student at University of Maine who's working at the intersection of behavioral health and policy, climate policy. So hopefully we'll be able to get some more work bridging these two working groups in the future. Something to look forward to for the Behavioral Health Working Group. A week from today, actually, Wednesday, May 29th, Bob Fetter and Christine Tappan, another member of that group, will be presenting for the New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commissions, Preserving Open Space, Promoting Spiritual and Mental Health, which should be a really interesting presentation. And I encourage everyone to join if you're able. That's available at our events page on our website. Moving right along into our Chicks and Children's Health Working Group, currently chaired by Maria Finnegan, our Director of Chicks, who I'll hand it over to shortly, and then previously chaired by Carl Cooley since the organization got formed. This group meets on the first Thursday of each month and has had two super active projects over the past year. In 2 years, the Climate Informed Pediatric Care Project in partnership with Dartmouth Health, and then the Chicks Project. So I could speak on the Climate Informed Pediatric Care Project, but we have a webinar with those experts who will speak on it themselves on June 3rd. So I thought in the interest of time, I would encourage folks to sign up for that. Dr. Cheryl Anderson at Dartmouth worked with Bob McClellan and Carl Cooley, members of our organization, on this project, getting toolkits to pediatric settings around New Hampshire to incorporate climate into pediatric settings. So this webinar will talk about that pilot year program, goals for expansion, what was learned, and everything like that on June 3rd. So I'm going to now pass it over to Maria to talk about our Chicks program. And then at the end, I'll have a few more slides just on kind of day-to-day operations, and we will end it there. So Maria, I will pass it over to you.
Thanks, Emily. That was amazing. It's really crazy how much stuff goes on at NH HWCA. I was like, I'm learning things too. So yes, my name is Maria Finnegan, and I'm the Director of Chicks, the Climate and Health Initiative for Caregivers and Kids. I started sort of in January and then came on full-time, which is of course part-time, in February, and hit the ground running. So what my goal is for this presentation is to give you a bit of a background on where we've been, and Emily will be helpful in that because she was, integral part of the first year of Chicks, and then talk about where we're going next. So if she chimes in, if I'm missing something, don't be surprised. This right here is a great graphic. Chicks was founded by Bob Freelander, who thinks in this way: big ideas, big space. And this map here, this graphic, shows you really kind of the ecosystem and all the players involved in Chicks. When you learn about climate-informed pediatric care, you'll understand that the focus there is to reach children and parents in the doctor's office. And that's one way that NHHWCA is reaching and educating people. The other one is what Chicks is a part of, and that's educating and reaching people in the community. So, and each of these different categories here, you'll see community-based nonprofits, at-risk children. These are talking about some of our focuses. We have colleges there because we utilize college students. We have hospitals who are involved, local businesses, faith communities, libraries, children's museums, really all of the things that make a community what it is. We're trying to find our way in there and find ways to work with and have access to people, parents and children specifically. So it's really a focus on educating parents and children about the changes that are already here, the mental health, the physical health impacts of climate change that are not a distant threat, but they're already present in New Hampshire, and giving children and parents the tools for how to deal with those and help keep children safe. So I'm going to cover 3 areas that we're focusing right now in 2024. The first one is climate education for children focused on nature and health. That's the Chicks curriculum. There's a lot of focus on education, adaptation strategies for the threat that's already here. And it's really, it's not meant to scare children, but to really help build a relationship with the natural world for them. So they're understanding kind of the give-take experience of existing in the natural world, and we want them to have a respect for it, understand their place in it, and understand how caring for it will help them in the future help their health, help their well-being. The second topic I'll cover are climate cafes for parents and caregivers. That's another aspect of what we're doing. Those are listening sessions, conversations, open dialogue for parents and caregivers in New Hampshire who are worried about climate change, worried about raising children in climate change. And it really, the hope is to build community. We've lost so much community since COVID. People are less likely to get out. We've lost a lot of the places where we naturally come together, like churches, community centers, things like that. So we're trying to help them build a community in a new way and decrease helplessness. And it's also, by bringing people together, our hope is to give them the agency to act, to act on this crisis, to be a part of the mitigation effort, which is reducing the effects, reducing what's happening right now in New Hampshire. And the last topic is advocacy. This one is really new to us. You'll see that slide has the least because we're really trying to figure out which direction to go. But the hope is that as we bring people together through our different efforts, there will be people who want to act and they want to be a part of this. So trying to find ways to direct them in meaningful ways that don't take up too much time, because parents do not classically have a lot of time, but also engaging with members of the third act community, people who do have a bit more time, and seeing how they can be a part of this effort as well. So here's a lot of information about the pilot curriculum, which took place in 2023. It was made possible by a grant from the Dartmouth Center for Advancing Rural Health Equity. That was an effort that brought together Emily, Matt Killehy, different people from our organization, and as well as Bob, who really wanted to bring this curriculum to light. It also had a lot of input from people in the community as well. And that's referenced here in the listening sessions that were done throughout the community with community members in the Kearsarge region. And the ultimate product, with their help and also the help of people at Colby Sawyer who were involved in a specific class focused around early childhood, was they developed and created a 10-week climate and health after school curriculum for it was administered to 65 students in the area, K through 5, at 4 Boys and Girls Club sites in the Kearsarge region of New Hampshire. And it was facilitated by Colby Sawyer students. And another part of that was they had a newsletter that the children took home each week to help their parents understand what they had learned that day, and also kind of get to the parents a little bit and help them to learn about some of the things that the children were covering. And it was really a great experience building this relationship with the Kearsarge region. That was extended when Emily and Matt created this resource guide for the Kearsarge region, so that people could better understand how to make, changes to their house that keeps them safe and is more energy efficient. Also, just learning about the area and finding resources that already exist for them. And the last part of it was that there was a survey at the end of it that gave parents and caregivers the opportunity to reflect on the experience that they learned from their kids. And the top priority action was to provide a better life for their children. So it did have an impact. And it was also helpful to understand that that is a concern for parents and that they do see the impact of this kind of education. So what came out of that was this 10-part Adventures in Climate and Health curriculum. You can see the different focuses here, focusing on weather and the difference between weather and climate, which is a big deal for kids and adults, really to understand that difference. But, fun activities around sun safety and asthma awareness. The big thing I'm always worried about are ticks. So that was great that that's included as well, and done in a fun way that isn't overly, serious. This is something that is implemented after school. Kids have just spent the whole day sitting and learning about things. So it's done in a way that, brings a little bit of levity and fun to something that's a little bit serious, and helps the kids to feel safer outside. And here are a few of the posters. The last week of the curriculum is basically like what you learned poster project. And you can see some of the things that kids put together here, all over the place, of course, as kids are, but like really, you can see the impact. God, those ticks look real. Uh, it's great stuff. And this is just a great representation of 9 weeks of awesome content that the kids have learned about and then reflected on afterwards. So the last part here, I'll let Emily talk about this a little bit, but here is a little bit about the Kearsarge Centipede Resource Guide.
Yeah, so thank you. We were funded by the New Hampshire DHHS Asthma Control Program to create this resource guide. So what we did was put together, as Maria said, resources that are already existent in specific areas. So this one was Kearsarge and Sunapee specific, connecting them with local health officers and providing parents and caregivers resources that align with the curriculum that we're teaching simultaneously. So when we give a lesson on indoor air quality, we'll be able to provide parents resources on how to make sure your indoor air quality in your home is okay. And then if we do a lesson on asthma, we'll have resources on how to make your home asthma safe. And then it's also important to note we did, at least in the Kearsarge and Sunapee region, work at Boys and Girls Club sites that were predominantly low income children and families. So being able to provide families with opportunities to learn about energy efficiency and energy savings, and other sort of resources that local health officers can provide, and things that might help the overall health and wellness of a home, we were able to provide in this resource guide. So we were funded by the Asthma Control Program to do the same thing this summer in Rochester, and we'll be creating a similar guide. And hopefully we'll have a collection of these regional guides that we can put together as we continue the CHICS program. This is available on our website as well.
And also, it reflects the goal of not just dropping in to an area and doing this program and then just kind of leaving. It's an investment in each area. And I'll talk a little bit more about our work in Rochester, but it's exciting to be able to, as Emily said, go through this program and then have the resources, be able to point to them for parents and families. So it's not just the children, but it's really everybody who's a part of it. So now I will talk a little bit about year 2 of CHICS, really the climate education aspect of it, the curriculum. Year 2, 2024. We started out this year with an awesome event at Rochester Child Care Center. We held kickoff for our relationship with them. It was an Earth Week event, April 24th. Students participated in nature-based activities and learned about the connection between climate and health. And it was really a lot of fun. Chris Pappas was there. He stayed for an hour and a half. He walked around and interacted with the children. He spoke with the child care providers. Like, it was just really a great experience for everybody involved. And we were able to get a little bit of media coverage out of it, which is always nice. But they had little tables set up, like in that picture on the left. The children are practicing planting seeds, which they all got to bring home. On the right, you can see Representative Pappas with a little boy who created, the fairy houses these kids were making were unbelievable. I don't know how architecturally it was very impressive, but they had a little, area where they could build things out of, things you find outside. So that was a lot of fun. And then they had a sensory bin with different moss and bark and things like that. And then they had different kinds of fruits and vegetables, so children could understand the relationship with like taking care of the environment and growing the food that we need, and getting to sample different things. So it was great. Rochester Child Care Center is phenomenal. They have great staff there, and we're really excited about partnering with them in the summer, which I'll talk a little bit more about too. So this summer, RCCC will be facilitating the curriculum, and they'll be doing it a little bit differently, which is great because we had the curriculum come out once and it was 10 weeks, and that does not mean that's the way it has to be always. There are ways to adapt based on your organization, your school, whichever group is able to take it. The way we kind of pictured it is moving forward, different organizations can pull from it and use different content in different ways. It will be 6 weeks this time, and instead of college students presenting, they will have high school students who are in a partner mentoring program. So one of the people who's a staff member there mentors high school students as well, and she has worked with them year round, and the kids will be the ones who are sharing the content. So that's great. It's going to be a lot of fun for the young kids to learn from, someone who might be their older brother or sister's age, who's not yet an adult, still seems kind of cool, and get to do some of these fun activities. And also, as Emily mentioned, we'll be making a resource guide specifically for Rochester, hopefully partnering with RCCC as much as they can give us. They're so busy, but they're also super connected to the community there. So we're looking forward to building more relationships with them and getting this out into the community. I also want to mention some other programming that we have in progress this year. I was telling Emily today, a lot of this is fluid. It really depends on who responds to an email this week and who's available and which classes are being offered. But I wanted to talk about some of the conversations we're having and what we're hoping to do this year. We really want to focus on staying in the Kearsarge region. We had that great relationship with them last year, and there was a lot of good vibes around it. So people really wanted to keep that going. We've been working with the Boys and Girls Club of Central and Northern New Hampshire. They're excited about having us do it again. So we'll be in 4 Boys and Girls Club sites. 2 of them were worked with last year, but not all the students went through the process. So we get to work with some of the other kids. And then there are 2 new sites that are being developed that we'll be working with. We have students from Colby Sawyer again, hopefully, conversations still going on. And then we have interest from students at Dartmouth, the Geisel School, who have a club where they go out in the community and work with educating children. So that's fantastic. They're a little hard to pin down right now, medical students, but there's a lot of interest in the fall in participating. So really we might have, if we're lucky, more students than we know what to do with. And if that's the case, I mentioned other after school sites. We're currently beginning the process of looking into other places in the Upper Valley that we can work with. And that would be a great problem to have if that's the case. The next one I want to highlight is Concord and Suncook. The guys at those 2 sites are very interested in the programming and bringing it to the group, to the sites this fall. The big thing is finding who is going to be facilitating the different lesson plans. And we're hoping that NHTI students will be able to be a part of it. We have some asks out around that, but we're still waiting to find out. And if not, we'll pivot and see if there's someone else who can do it. The thing about Boys and Girls Clubs is they can't have high school students. It has to be college or older. So that kind of limits some of our participants, but we're going to figure it out. Hopefully we can be there in the fall. I can also mention our relationship with the Boys and Girls Club of the Sahegan Valley, which is lovely to me because I grew up in Milford. We're working with them right now on incorporating Chick's curriculum into their current sustainability club and STEAM program. Here's an example of a place that already has some of this stuff, happening already. We're actually ahead of the curve in terms of this. Like we don't have to start everything over. So they have these groups, they have these kids in the program. What they don't have is the climate and health connection. So I've met with 2 of the folks there who are very interested in finding ways to take from the curriculum and add it into what they're already doing. And that means we likely wouldn't need facilitators. Now, if their concern is that if it becomes too popular, we might, because more students, after school students, would be interested in participating, and then we might need more facilitators. But right now they have a STEAM coordinator who I'm working with, who is ready to be a part of that. So we're looking towards the fall for implementing the curriculum there. And the last one I mentioned here for sure, Manchester Boys and Girls Club. They're interested in something in the summer and the fall. I have highlighted to them, and they're also aware of how this summer is predicted to be the hottest on record. Big surprise, that keeps happening, but specifically for the Northeast. So preparing kids for what's coming. The Boys and Girls Clubs, they spend all their days outside in the summer. So finding ways to speak with their with their students or children about sun safety, heat safety, drinking water, all of these different aspects of the curriculum. Not totally sure if it's going to be in the 6-week or 10-week format, but definitely finding ways to bring the important tenets forward this summer. They've also expressed interest in exploring the 0 to 5 age group. I heard from them today about the pre-K group. So trying to figure out, we have some great people on our advisory board, figuring out what parts of the curriculum we can use and are appropriate and how we can talk to little kids about these different things. Because I will say my experience at the Rochester event, I went into it really not knowing how aware kids are about climate change at that age, 0 to 5, and wasn't really sure when I spoke. I thought I should mince my words a little bit, but Cora, who's the head of the program, got up there and she really spoke directly about climate change and the threat it posed, and that really helped me to understand that children younger and younger are aware, and that they want to learn. They need to learn about ways, at least at that age, to keep themselves safe. So I'm excited for all of these different relationships I put down there. Building relationships in the Monadnock region for 2025. I'm out in Dublin. I'm hoping to get Keene involved, Peterborough. There are a lot of things already happening here with sustainability groups and clubs. So for 2025, we're looking to involve schools out here, Antioch, Franklin Pierce, Keene State, seeing how we can get those students involved and finding some of the after-school programs. There is not a Boys and Girls Club, but there is a YMCA, and there's a great children's museum out here as well. So lots going on, hopefully. The next thing I'll talk about is another important part of our work, which are the parent and caregiver climate cafes. Climate cafes are facilitated small group gatherings where participants have a safe place to share their thoughts about raising children in a warming climate. I have a lot of these fears myself, and that's why when I first started working with Bob about, on climate cafes, I wanted to focus on parents and caregivers. I've since learned, there's plenty of space for grandparents as well. Honestly, I included them in the caregivers, but spelling it out specifically, my parents are concerned about the world that my son is growing up in. So finding ways to include people, build community, and focus on the mental health that that's not just it's not just climate, it's the poly crisis as well, but climate change is a big aspect of that. We piloted our first cafes at the Montcharm Museum of Science in Norwich, Vermont in December 2023. I co-hosted with Elizabeth Burchard, who's amazing, of Moms Clean Air Force. We got some great media attention around that, positive feedback. So we knew that there was a need, and we were excited about growing the program. Year 2. So we had a New Hampshire cafe at the New Hampshire Audubon. It was a little sparsely attended, and it was really helpful learning experience for us because we recognized that the Montcharm Museum was so successful because it had children's programming and childcare. And moving forward, that is what we will be doing. We will continue to have opportunities for children if it is on a Saturday. That's really such an important part of the equation for parents. So that was a great learning experience. I also got to facilitate with one of my co-hosts, Michelle Wagner, who I love and who's going to be working with me moving forward. So it was a great experience, learning experience, built the relationship with NH Audubon. Moving forward, when it's not a school vacation week, we'll be able to work with them and have some of their educators there with us, which will definitely help our numbers. But I would like to highlight another one that we do have coming up in 3 or 4 weeks at this point. It's at the Sunset Hill Educational Institute, and it's going to be great. We will have children's programming as part of it with Lyndon Rayton, and she is a great, well-known children's natural educator in the area. She used to work with the Society for the Protection of New Hampshire Forests. She sometimes does now on a contract basis, and she'll be providing concurrent programming for the children so that parents can be a part of the cafe. And if you've ever been to Sunset Hill, apparently it is gorgeous, incredible views, beautiful area. So I'm hoping it will, get some good attention for it. And what's really cool, another part of that is that the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation will be there because we did receive a grant from them to fund the first part of my role. So they want to feature us in the annual report. They will be there taking some pictures and participating. And what's great is they also gave Sunset Hill some money as well. So it's an awesome opportunity for partnership and to highlight how these different organizations are working together in New Hampshire. We also have a few coming up with the Harris Center for Conservation Education. That's down where I am, and this is in Hancock specifically. We're going to be co-sponsoring a conversation with Rebecca Henderson, the author, and that'll be more of a opportunity for me to speak about chicks and NH HWCA, and she will speak as well. We'll have a smaller cafe, and then the two ones that we have following will be specifically for conversation, no content, just around community building. And we are excited to say that we'll be going back to the Montshire Museum of Science in the fall at some point. They're excited to have us back. I mean, Elizabeth will hopefully be there. And we're also in talks to try to figure out something with the Rochester Child Care Center in the fall, since we will have gone through the program with them. So before we get to that, I do want to touch on one thing that Emily mentioned with it relates to the curriculum and the climate cafes. I have, as an organization, recognized the need to add in a piece of our curriculum that's focused around mental health and climate change with children. So that's something that we're hoping to develop sometime this summer, maybe into the fall, so that we can start addressing some of these feelings that children are having at K through 5, which honestly, if you read a lot about mental health in children and climate change, there's a lot of focus on middle and high school, not as much at K through 5, but that's changing because it's trickling down the concerns. So we're excited to work on that and have it be not only a part of the curriculum, but maybe a one-off piece that schools or organizations could look to. And these things do exist, out there in different capacities, but we're looking to create a New Hampshire specific one, which in this state, can go a long way when it's a New Hampshire organization creating it. So we'll be able to work on that in the coming months, hopefully. Advocacy 2024 and beyond. This really is something we're just starting to look into. We do have an advocacy working group, which does a lot of other things, not necessarily focused around climate and children specifically. So one of our goals is to determine priorities that support chicks, like what we're trying to do, children's health. We're looking at air quality in schools, electric school buses, climate change education, finding ways that we can support these different focuses. A big goal is to engage parents, caregivers, and stakeholders to join this effort, to come to cafes, to get energized, and then to go out and take action. And they don't even have to come to the cafes, where we can hopefully find ways to speak with them out in public, out at different speaking sessions that our great speakers are going to, and point them in the direction. And, some of our partner organizations like Mothers Out Front and Moms Clean Air Force specifically, they've figured out quick ways that parents can participate. And we want to work with them to figure out how we can take some of these tactics, like these, fast action response. They send you an email and they say, email your senator, and I just click something and everything populates and it goes out. And that takes me a minute. And I've learned from a conference I went to with a number of elected officials that is powerful. So finding ways to use similar tactics. We've already spoken with some of these organizations, and we have a great relationship with them now. So it's just trying to learn from them and find ways to implement what they're doing. And I also put support partner organizations and legislative efforts. There are other organizations in the state doing work that aligns with what we're doing. So finding ways to support them, learning about, keeping up with what NH Network is up to, reading their emails, following up on what they're doing, and finding ways to support each other and contribute to policy work. We've had some interest from organizations in the state that are able to do a little bit more politically. They've asked for some information around health, and that we can do. So providing information when asked.
All right. Thank you very much, Maria, for that long overview. I apologize that we're all providing so much information all at once. We could probably talk for a few hours here, but I'm going to try and wrap this up quick so we have a few minutes for questions. So I'm not going to go over this slide in detail. I just wanted to highlight all the different resources that are available on our website. We've compiled a lot over a few years, some on health system sustainability resources, resources specifically for families, resources specifically for healthcare workers. If you want to educate someone, don't know where to start, we have a personal list of actions to reduce climate change in your personal life. We have children's climate and health posters that are geared towards children that you can order for free, and they'll be mailed right to you, that have gone up in libraries and pediatrician offices and schools, and given as presents and things like that. We have a list of our 37 affiliate organizations that we're always looking for more. And then, of course, encouraging folks to see our donate page is always important, and I'll get more into that. So I just wanted to end by explaining that our operational funding that we receive is how we fund these day-to-day projects and Maria and I's salaries. And one new sponsorship program that we've just created is a solution that we're hoping will help us get more of this operational funding. So our two corporate sponsors at the moment are the Nature Conservancy and the Colony Group. And they have signed up to be platinum sponsors. So it's $1,000 for 3 months. And this is funding that we can use to fund our time. And it's not project specific like grants are, which are grants are a lot easier to get if they are project specific versus operational. So if you know of any sustainability minded companies that you think could be a good fit and would be willing to be a corporate sponsor of us, we have a program outlining the perks that those companies would get from signing a sponsor. And I'd be happy to work with you to facilitate that outreach. And then lastly, I just wanted to say thank you to all of you as we're approaching our 3rd birthday as an organization. I think everything we've accomplished is absolutely amazing. Starting as a grassroots nonprofit organization and the first climate and health specific organization in New Hampshire. I think the work that we've done thus far is phenomenal. We can talk more about our accomplishments at the annual meeting, but right now I'm just looking forward to the work that we're going to continue doing, and none of this at all would be possible without your volunteer time. So thank you to all of our amazing volunteers who have done all of this project and presented ideas and leadership, and all of your time is greatly appreciated. And then just put in a plug that another source of operational funding that we get is through our donations. So thank you in part to all of your donations for allowing us to do all of this work over the past 3 years, and then always encouraging yourselves and your networks and your colleagues to donate to us as well if they believe in our mission. So thank you very much. That is the end of our presentation. Happy to stay a little after myself to answer questions, but we have a few minutes right now where we can have any comments or questions or thoughts from the rest of you. Look in the chat here.
I think everyone agrees that was outstanding, Emily and Maria. Thank you so much. What a powerful presentation.